whether he had recce'd any place in Cochin. So that can be actually extracted from him.
Sir, I was reporting in Chicago and we knew of places like NDC, National Defense College in Delhi. We knew about Siddhivinayak Temple in Mumbai. The Cochin, naval base, some information had filtered out. What else? What were the other locations that they were wrecking for further attacks? Because I believe Hafiz Saeed had told them that you have to repeatedly attack India. And even after 26/11, their wrecking continued, sir, till the time he was arrested in America at the O'Hare airport, if I remember correctly.
If I correctly remember, they were talking about Kumbh Mela. Something like that. Yeah, so that time I remember that particular thing. He was taking that these people who are actually coming to Haridwar and all. And also they went to Pushkar. Pushkar is one of the targets. Other things I'm not able to remember.
Now, there was a desperate attempt which was being made by all the terrorists to somehow say that this was Hindu terrorism that was being played out. 10 Pakistani attackers, they in fact wore Hindu Kalava bands. Now, those are the bands that you wear once you go to the temple. Now, that is something that a priest usually ties on your hands. The sacred thread was bought from Siddhivinayak Temple, and this was the thread which was being used. Pakistan, in fact, even tried to pass 26/11 attack as Hindu terrorism. David Headley revealed that there was a camouflage that they were planning, and the camouflage was Hindu terrorism. Qassab and Pakistani attackers were in fact even given Hindu names. The handlers said that this is saffron terror attack that is now taking place. But this has now been exposed in all the investigation that has taken place so far. Tahawwur Rana's extradition is a big win against Pakistan. A captain at the Indian Army, Rana was a key figure. He planned and coordinated the 26/11 Mumbai attack. It was Rana who helped David Coleman Headley, the man who surveyed terror targets in Mumbai. He was even facilitated entry into India, and this even opened a front for Lashkar-e-Taiba in India. Devesh Singh and my colleague Nalini Sharma decode the importance of Tahawwur Rana.
The 26/11 terror attacks were planned and executed. Captain Tahawwur Rana is one of the key co-conspirators of the 26/11 attack. The man who provided logistic, financial and other support to David Coleman Headley. Headley conducted extensive surveillance of targets in Mumbai, acting as a link between LET and Pakistan's spy agency ISI. David Headley took Rana's help to travel to India. It was Tahawwur Rana who obtained the visa for David Headley by giving wrong information at the Indian consulate in Chicago. David Headley, in conspiracy with Tahawwur Rana, started an immigration firm in Mumbai. The company First World International was used as a cover for carrying out LET and Huji operations.
This is the same locality where in 2006, Tahawwur Rana set up a branch office of his immigration and visa agency. Between 2006 and 2008, using this agency office of Tahawwur Rana, David Coleman Headley made 4 to 5 trips to Mumbai and scouted for various locations. These locations were pinpointed by him using a GPS unit and then shared with the terrorists who carried out the attacks on 26 November 2008.
In June 2006, Headley travelled to Chicago, where he met with Rana and discussed the entire terror plot. Since Rana was a former Pakistan Army captain, Headley assured him of all help through Pakistan ISI handler Major Iqbal.
I am at the office of Tahawwur Hussain Rana, the First World Immigration Office at Devon Avenue. This is where Tahawwur Hussain Rana used to sit. David Coleman Headley used this First World Immigration, the name of this office, to spread terror, not just in India, but also in Denmark. Devon Avenue is called Chicago's Chandni Chowk. But here at Chicago's Chandni Chowk, now there is genuine fear that undercover agents would be seen in larger numbers.
Upon landing in India, a contact of Tahawwur Rana arranged conveyance, lodging and other logistics for David Headley. In June 2007, with the assistance of Tahawwur Rana, David Headley applied for an extension of his visa to India. Rana communicated extensively with Headley during his India visits. Tahawwur Rana himself visited India between 13th and 21st November 2008, less than a week before 26/11 terror attacks. Apart from Mumbai, he travelled to Delhi, Agra, Ahmedabad, Cochin and Hapur. With his extradition, Pakistan's role has been nailed. Will it lead to action against mastermind Hafiz Saeed next? With Divyesh Singh and Nalini Sharma in Delhi. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, getting Tahawwur Rana is just the tip of the iceberg. What about the real mastermind? People who are living under Pakistan's protection. Hafiz Saeed, what about him? The Pakistani army officers who helped in planning and the execution of the 26/11 attacks. My colleague Ankit Kumar reports.
(26/11) plotter Tahawwur Rana has been extradited to India, but the main masterminds are still at large. David Coleman Headley, aka Daud Gilani, who surveyed 26/11 targets, conducted a GPS intelligence and boat recce before the terror attack. He was arrested by FBI in 2009 and turned star witness for US prosecution. Headley is currently under US Witness Protection Program and is likely given a new identity by US officials. His official public records have been wiped out and his current whereabouts are unknown. Hafiz Saeed, founder of terror outfit Lashkar-e-Taiba, that planned and executed the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. Saeed was sentenced by Pakistani court, but lives at Johar town, Lahore, under heavy security. He survived an explosion in 2021 near his home. Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi, operational commander of LET during 26/11. Lakhvi trained and coordinated with the attackers as well as Headley. He recently was seen in a fitness video at Islamabad and has changed his name to Abu Wasi. 4 serving officers of Pakistan's ISI and 3 ex-officers of the Pakistani army were also part of the 26/11 plot. Among them were Sajid Mir, Major Iqbal and Major Samir Ali, who were handlers of David Headley, Tahawwur Rana and 26/11 attackers. They remain free in Pakistan. Tahawwur Rana is just the tip of the iceberg. Will India get its hand on the big fish? With Ankit Kumar in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, there's also a lot of terror politics which is erupting in light of the 26/11 attack mastermind Tahawwur Rana's extradition. Blame game, credit war has even erupted with regards to the extradition of the terrorist from the United States of America nearly 16 years after his arrest. Now, Union Mantri Piyush Goyal launched a scathing attack at the Congress party, claiming that the then Congress took no action against 26/11 accused, but in fact served biryani to Ajmal Kasab. India ally NCP Sharad Pawar now has triggered a big controversy batting for justice to terrorism Tahawwur Rana. Now they are saying that they should make sure that there is fair probe that should now take place. It should also be within India's lawful ambit.
कांग्रेस सरकार के समय हम जिस होटल में खड़े हैं, यहीं पर आतंकवादियों ने हमला किया था। कांग्रेस की सरकार ने कुछ किया नहीं आरोपियों के ऊपर सख्त सजा दिलाने के लिए, बल्कि जो पकड़ा गया था कसब उसको भी बिरयानी खिलाते थे। ये मोदी जी का दृढ़ संकल्प था कि जिन लोगों ने हमारी देश पर आंख उठाई उनको सख्त से सख्त सजा मिले। ऐसे लोग जिन्होंने हमारे देश के ऊपर हिंसक आक्रामक हमला किया था, उनको हम भारत के धरती पर भारत के कानून के अंतर्गत सजा दिलाएंगे।
अजमल कसाब को फांसी कांग्रेस की सरकार ने दी, यही तो दुर्भाग्य है। लोग मंत्री तो बन जाते हैं पर मानसिक स्तर उनका ठीक नहीं होता। तो मैं ये सवाल भी पूछ सकता हूँ, कुख्यात आईएसआई को पठानकोट एयरबेस पर कौन लेकर आया था? और जो सारे उग्रवादियों को बीजेपी की सरकार जहाज में बिठाकर अफगानिस्तान छोड़कर आई थी, कांधार जो के अंदर जो हमारा प्लेन हाईजैक हुआ था एयर इंडिया का, क्या वो बीजेपी नहीं थी? तो क्या अब आप अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी को इसको लेकर गालियां देंगे? क्या ये सही नहीं कि बीजेपी के लोग मध्य प्रदेश से लेकर और कई जगह तक बेंगलोर तक वो पाकिस्तान के एजेंट के रूप में काम करते पकड़े गए हैं? तो इस प्रकार की घटिया बातें अब गोयल जी को शोभा नहीं देती। अजमल कसाब को कांग्रेस की सरकार ने फांसी लगाई, तहव्वुर राना को वो लेकर आए हैं, उसे भी फांसी दीजिए। पर आखिर में जब तक डेविड हेडली नहीं आएगा, जब तक दाऊद इब्राहिम नहीं आएगा, जब तक छोटा राजन को नहीं पकड़ कर लाएंगे, जब तक नीरव मोदी और संदेशराज को नहीं लाएंगे, तब तक देश का एक सामूहिक तौर से उग्रवाद, वो इकोनॉमिक हो या दूसरा, उससे लड़ने में कामयाबी नहीं मिलेगी।
तो राणा को जल्दी से लाए और तुरंत फांसी दे और झटने से मुक्ति पाए। जिन्होंने मुंबई में हमला करके हजारों लोगों की जान ली, तो ऐसे को छोड़ना नहीं चाहिए। सबकी भारत की इच्छा है, पर उसके पीछे राजनीति नहीं होनी चाहिए। आने वाले चुनाव में वो राणा का नाम लेकर वोट की बटोरना नहीं चाहिए। ये भी उसके में हमारी मंशा है। वो क्या, वो राजनीति आ गई फिर से। तो अगर बोल रहे राणा को लाना है तो फिर सफलता बड़ी है। तो इससे बड़ा मुंबई को उद्ध्वस्त करने वाला दाऊद वहाँ पे बैठा है पाकिस्तान में, तो इससे बड़ी सफलता मिलती उसको लेकर आते तो उसको भी लेकर आए, इससे बड़ी सफलता पाए।
एक घिनौना आतंकवादी जो विश्व के किसी भी हिस्से में छुपा हुआ था, उसे आज हमारे सुपुर्द किया गया। अब ये जो तहव्वुर राना आ रहे हैं, इनके मामले में भी ट्रायल में हमें बहुत चौकन्ना रहना चाहिए। तहव्वुर राना के लिए भी एक फेयर ट्रायल कंडक्ट की जाएगी, इसलिए कि फौजदारी कानून की दुनिया में क्रिमिनल ट्रायल इज अ क्वेस्ट फॉर ट्रूथ, यानी हम सच्चाई की तह तक ट्रायल के जरिए पहुंचे हैं, ये बात जाहिर होनी चाहिए बिल्कुल। और ये बात अजमल कसाब के मामले में बिल्कुल हो चुकी, और मुझे नहीं लगता कि तहव्वुर के मामले में भी हम कहीं कोई कोताही करेंगे।
यार आतंकवादियों के लिए जो सजा सख्त से सख्त हो वो होनी चाहिए। जो काम बढ़िया करें उसके लिए तारीफ, और अगर इतनी डिले हो रही तो उसके लिए बुराई के तो अपना उस चीज़ के अंदर बिल्कुल क्लियर है।
Absolutely, and when found guilty by the Indian courts, I would like to see him hung in public.
16 साल की लंबी लड़ाई देश ने लड़ी है और फिर जाकर इनको देश भेजा जा रहा है। उनने हर यूएस कोर्ट्स में अपील की थी कि कैसे उनका एक्स्ट्राडिशन रोक दिया जाए, पर वो एक्स्ट्राडाइट हो रहे हैं। मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ कि इंडियन कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में जो भी प्रोसीजर हो, पर जब इनको फांसी की सज़ा दी जाए, भरे चौराहे में मुंबई के दिए जाए, क्योंकि जिस तरीके से इन्होंने आतंक मचाने का काम किया था, इस तरीके का पनिशमेंट मिलना चाहिए कि जो लोग इंडिया को बुरी तरह से देखते हैं उनकी रूह कांप जाए पनिशमेंट को देखकर।
अब कई लोगों का कहना है कि कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि सालों साल ट्रायल चलती रहे, पहले NIA की छोटी अदालत में, फिर बड़ी अदालत में, फिर हाई कोर्ट में, फिर सुप्रीम कोर्ट में, फिर दया याचिका राष्ट्रपति के पास, इसमें तो वर्षों लग जाएंगे।
नहीं होना चाहिए, फास्ट ट्रैक होना चाहिए और लिमिटेड ऑप्शंस होने चाहिए। आप यहाँ जो भारत के जुडिशियल सिस्टम में एक बहुत बड़े रिफॉर्म की ज़रूरत है। क्या उसका डायलॉग है फेमस, तारीख पे तारीख, वो वाला सिस्टम जिस तरह अमित शाह जी ने क्रिमिनल लॉज में रिफॉर्म लाई, मैं समझता हूँ इस तरह की रिफॉर्म्स अदालतों में भी होनी चाहिए कि आप 2 या 3 एडजर्नमेंट के बाद आपको मौका नहीं मिलना चाहिए। और इसी तरह जल्दी से जल्दी फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट लगाकर इसका फैसला करना चाहिए। बिरयानी खाने के लिए यहाँ नहीं लाया इसको।
In a fiery attack, BJP MP Kangana Ranaut has also now accused the Congress of being disconnected with the Sanatani roots and also said that it's the Congress party which is being aligned with foreign interests. Listen in.
हम सनातनी संस्कृति से जुड़े हुए हैं और ये अंग्रेजों की भूली बिसरी औलादें यहाँ पे बची हुई हैं। ये है कांग्रेसियों की हकीकत। देखो जानते सब है इनकी क्या विचारधारा है। इनकी विचारधारा है चोर चोर मौसेरे भाई। जहाँ ये मिले वहाँ तो चोर इकट्ठे हुए और डाकुओं की गैंग बन गई। अटल जी की सरकार देखिए एक बार उन्होंने कैसे मतलब कितनी मुश्किल से चलाई। राष्ट्रवादी थे वो, एकदम अव्वल दर्जे के राष्ट्रवादी थे, उसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। बहुत उनकी जो देश के लिए जो देश प्रेम है उसकी कोई तुलना नहीं है। लेकिन क्या वो काफी है? आप खुद सोचिए। पार्लियामेंट पे हमले करा दिए, हर जगह टेररिस्ट अटैक, हर जगह जो है उन्होंने आतंक फैला दिया क्योंकि ये मिले हुए हैं पाकिस्तान से।
We are now taking a very quick break. On the other side, it's President Donald Trump who's bowled another tariff ruling. A 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs for 75 countries, but no relief given to China. Instead, China has been slapped with a high...
The few select officials from the NIA will get access to him, and also the legal team, as you were mentioning, Gaurav, the legal team plus the NIA officials will get access to him, and the security that will be accompanying him all the time while he's moving exposed.
Oh, absolutely. And the National Investigation Agency begins the process of taking him in custody. That's the cavalcade that's moving. Watch these images. That is the cavalcade that is now moving out. Of course, that is Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh is what I'm learning. Rajnath Singh was out. He was delivering a lecture earlier today at the Defence Services Staff College, and you realize that the moment you noticed the cavalcade of vehicles and of course the tricolour on Rajnath Singh's vehicle. He just delivered a lecture at the Defence Services Staff College in Wellington earlier this morning, where he spoke of the upcoming threats the nation faces and how the geopolitical threats are only intensifying and how the world needs to unite to take this. So NIA, we are told, has initiated the process of arresting Tahawwur Rana. Amit, what is the legal procedure? How does this process now move forward?
Gaurav, we were just discussing as to how the moment he lands in India on the Indian soil, the first process that will be carried out is NIA will put him under arrest and keep his custody. So that is the process for that is being carried out right now. The sources have confirmed India today that NIA, the National Investigation Agency, is putting him under arrest soon after this particular process and the paperwork is over. Remember, he will be taken out in a very protected manner, possibly one of the most secure person in Delhi today, and he will be taken to the NIA headquarters in most likelihood. But there are always possibilities keeping the security angle into context whether any safe house will be preferred. But as of now, it looks like that after he is put under arrest, the process is still going on. He will be taken to the NIA headquarters, and from there, in most likelihood, first to carry out the medical checkup, which is because remember, India is a democratic nation and we go by the law of the land, and that options, the legal options, legal procedures are also equal for those facing very severe criminal charges, whether it be the terror attack accused as well. So in this particular case as well, all those SOPs will be followed up. Arrest, after that medical process, then virtual, in most likelihood he will be produced in front of the court virtually. The judges and the legal team of the NIA is already on standby. Narendra Man is the advocate who will be representing the special public prosecutor for the NIA. And also one very important thing, Gaurav, he has been put in the place, Narendra Maan has been put in place for NIA for this particular case for the span of 3 years. That also shows the intention of the central government and the agencies, National Investigative Agency, that they want to close this particular case within that span of time, or maybe even earlier, unlike what we saw the years of wait for Ajmal Kasab's hanging, and the trial went on for several years. So in this particular case, it seems like the Indian government and the Indian agencies have a clear-cut clarity that they want the decision, the trial and the decision, the judgment to come as soon as possible. Back to you.
There are multiple gaps in the investigation so far since 26/11, because we all know what happened in India. We all know what Kasab mentioned because he was arrested and interrogated. We all know what David Coleman Headley said. But Nalini, there are many questions that India still wants answered, and those are very important questions about the higher direction given for this so-called Ghazwa-e-Hind war on India by Pakistan's deep state, ISI, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hafiz Saeed, Major Iqbal. There are many names. You've been through those legal papers. What is the case that India has built, Nalini?
Well, Gaurav, since we're talking about Tahawwur Rana, let's focus on the aspects of Tahawwur Rana that have been mentioned by the NIA against Tahawwur Rana in their case. And essentially what they're saying is that he was a key link between the LET as well as David Headley, especially during the times when the entire attack was being planned, to the extent that Tahawwur Rana himself had travelled to India between the 11th of November and the 21st of November. Just 5 days before the attack, he had left Mumbai, and he was in India during this time, working out the logistics and planning out the attack, the final days of the attack. Another interesting thing that we've been told is that it was Tahawwur Rana's contacts who were arranging all the things for David Headley while he was in India, including his conveyance, his logistics, all the financial support that was being provided to David Headley. And David Headley and Tahawwur Rana was so closely connected that David Headley had travelled all the way to Chicago to meet with Tahawwur Rana before he had come to India, to discuss the plan with him and to formulate the entire strategy of how they are going to get David Headley into India. Not just once but multiple times his visa was extended. He had multiple entries on a 10-year visa that was granted to him in 2007, and all of those things were worked out with Tahawwur Rana. So there is no aspect of the planning in the 26/11 case that Tahawwur Rana himself is not aware about, despite the fact that he was in Chicago. So he is going to be a key link that the NIA has now got in their hands regarding the attacks, and there might be several other chains or information that has not come out into the public domain yet regarding the attacks, which might come out now with Tahawwur Rana being extradited back to India and the NIA being given a chance to actually officially question him regarding the role he played. So what kind of details emerge is something that we will know only in the coming days.
That's a very important point. That's a very important point that you're raising, and I want you to pursue it for a moment. So Tahawwur Hussain Rana, you say, and investigations so far have said it was Tahawwur Hussain Rana's contacts in India who arranged logistics, who arranged funds for David Coleman Headley for the recce missions or the reconnaissance missions that David Coleman Headley carried out in India, including the National Defense College in Delhi and multiple other locations. Do we have details, or do investigators have details of who these local contacts in India were, or is that the interrogation going to focus on the moment the interrogation begins, Nalini?
Well, Gaurav, it's without a doubt that there is some help from the ground that both Tahawwur Rana and David Headley actually had. Now, how much information was actually given to these contacts, whether they knew who David Headley was, why they were really helping him, or what was the ultimate motive of David Headley and Tahawwur Rana regarding David Headley's visit to India. How much of the information was actually given to Tahawwur Rana's contacts is something that will only be emerging during the course of the investigation once the NIA has had a chance to question him. But one thing we know for sure is that Tahawwur Rana had played a key role in David Headley's organization throughout the time when David Headley was planning the attack in India. And the way in which they had planned it out was they had basically relied on David Headley's Caucasian Caucasian features to not give away his Pakistani identity or not connect him to the elite or Pakistan in any way, because he looked like an American, he looked like a foreigner. So there was no connection that anybody would immediately make regarding David Headley's connection to Pakistan, which allowed him a sort of an unfettered access even to the 5 stars in Mumbai, to all the prime locations that he had visited during his time in India while he was planning out the entire attack. So it was planned out so meticulously, and each and every detail was worked out well in advance, to the extent that we are given to understand that the planning of the attack started as early as 2005, when the attack was finally carried out in 2008. So they had almost 8 years during which David Headley had visited India 8 times. Sorry, 3 years during which David Headley had visited India 8 times. So there were several aspects that Tahawwur Rana was part of, which will now emerge through his interrogation that the NIA is able to carry out, which is why they will be pushing for at least the maximum amount of custody, which I believe is 14 days that they can get in this case. Almost 14 to 15 days custody at least NIA will be asking for from court today. Their remand application is being worked out, and as to whether or not the court will find enough merit or enough reason to grant them the full custody is the main thing to watch out for, because like I told you, Tahawwur Rana will also be given a lawyer. Now he obviously wouldn't have a lawyer already in India, so the court will ask him whether or not he wants to get his own lawyer or whether he should be given a court appointed lawyer. So all of those proceedings will happen once he's produced before the court, along with of course the crucial thing to watch out for: how many days will NIA be able to get Tahawwur Rana's custody today once he's produced.
Very, very interesting aspects, Shivani. There are so many gaps in that investigation, and something that's plagued our minds from 2008. That who were these locals who were helping people like David Coleman Headley and Tahawwur Hussain Rana? How was it that these Pakistanis, of course with a Canadian passport and an American passport, could roam around so openly and so easily across the length and breadth of our country? And as Loknath Behra, former IG NIA, just told us on India Today that he'd even traveled to Cochin, and Kochi is such a crucial naval base, a shipyard, a command, and it's so important. And yet these people were roaming around there, recruiting people, hiring people. Who were the people they were hiring, and why? A lot of this information will officially come out only now, Shivani.
Certainly, Gaurav, when the investigation starts, there will be layers of information that will be coming up after this investigation begins, because, you know, there are a number of questions that still remain unanswered even after the dossier, which mentions how the recce was done by Tahawwur Rana, how he helped his associate in India, how he helped these 10 terrorists who killed 166 people in India, including the Americans, Jews and the security personnel, how they had fake identity cards, how they had that string on their arms to have that fake identity of being a Hindu in India, how they entered the country, who were helping them. Yes, so all these questions remain unanswered, and when Tahawwur Rana will be here, investigation will begin, and all these answers are expected to come out, all this information expected to be come out. For whom is Tahawwur Rana was working then? Who is the larger mastermind? Who's the larger conspirator? Who are the people? Are they still in India or they are in Pakistan, for whom they have been working? And were more such conspiracies being hatched against India? Because we know that cross-border terrorism continues since last so many decades. Yes. India has been raising this issue internationally, but something what happened in 2008 was a massacre, Gaurav. How it was planned, how this conspiracy was planned, who were the people involved? Because, you know, the faces we know are Headley, we know Tahawwur Rana, we know Kasab, who's been hanged, those 10 terrorists who had entered the country. But who are the larger conspirators who were working against India? That still remains to be answered. And when the
Stay with me for a moment, and Nalini, there are these very crucial voice samples that he'd be confronted with. And Nalini, the voice sample is an issue that India and Pakistan have grappled with. India has repeatedly asked Pakistan to provide voice samples legally, diplomatically, and the 2611 probe derailed because Pakistan did not cooperate. What are the voice samples that India is repeatedly seeking? Hafiz Saeed and how many others, Nalini?
Well, Gaurav, what we're given to understand is that with all the evidence that the Indian agencies have against Tahawwur Rana, they've been working towards building a completely watertight case. Now, of course, the finer aspects of that case have still not been revealed to us, considering the fact that the trial is still not begun in the case, and there is no way that the prosecution will give any chance to Tahawwur Rana or his possible defense to be prepared for the kind of evidence that they already have against him. But you're completely right when you say that once Tahawwur Rana is taken in for questioning by the NIA, he will be confronted with all of the evidence that the NIA as well as the other agencies that have been working on the case ever since the 26/11 attacks have actually gathered in the course of all of this time. And remember, Gaurav, the legal team that has been working on this case has just not been roped in right now. Yes. They have been working even on Tahawwur Rana's extradition. So they have been coordinating with the US agencies as well. So they're completely in the know-how of exactly what kind of evidence is there with the Indian agencies, what kind of a case was made out by the US agencies, and on the basis of that, they're building this watertight case against Tahawwur Rana to ensure that A, the trial goes on, begins as soon as possible, and B, the trial also concludes as soon as possible. Because remember, Tahawwur Rana from his side is going to try every trick in the book to try and delay the trial for as much as possible so that a final sentence regarding his punishment cannot be pronounced by the court. But it is the prosecutor's job to ensure that the trial remains expedited, that they ensure that they have a watertight case so that there are no loopholes that can be exploited by Tahawwur Rana or his lawyers. It remains to be seen who will really be representing him, whether he'll get his own lawyer or whether there'll be a court-appointed lawyer that will be given to him. So all of those aspects are still going to be uncovered in the coming days once the proceedings before the NIA court begin. But today is the day one when Tahawwur Rana will be facing a court in India, and there will be several more dates. He needs to be prepared for that. There'll be several days where he will have to appear before the court, where he will be on the facing end of the questions by the prosecutors, and not just that, the judge as well. And we are hoping that the trial in the case can begin soon so that the victims of 26/11 can be finally brought to justice.
You know, when I was covering this case in Chicago, David Coleman Headley, he just threw Tahawwur Hussain Rana under the bus. David Coleman Headley turned approver, and he completely ratted out Tahawwur Hussain Rana, indicated he was the mastermind, indicated, and I must also tell our viewers this, and it's very interesting, the moment Federal Bureau of Investigation got wind of this case, these guys are very smart. Nalini, Amit and Shivani, these two Pakistani terrorists, Tahawwur Hussain Rana and David Coleman Headley, they feared that their homes were bugged. They feared that their mobile phones were bugged. So when they wanted to talk about this case, 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, they would get into their car and they would go out for a long drive. And in that long drive, Amit, they would talk about this case. But the FBI, as they submitted in the Chicago Federal Court, were a step ahead. They bugged the car and they started tracking that car from a couple of kilometers away, and they would record every bit of conversation that was taking place inside that car. And that is how a lot of information, not just about 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, but also the Copenhagen terror attack. Imagine, highly educated men. Tahawwur Hussain Rana is a doctor, a medical doctor in Pakistan, an army officer. He plotted a terror attack with David Coleman Headley in Copenhagen. They wanted to blow up a newspaper office in Copenhagen for printing a certain cartoon, a caricature there. So the tentacles of Lashkar-e-Taiba are spread far and wide. But Amit, bring us details of the gaps that your NIA sources are telling you, gaps that they want fulfilled in this case now.
You're right, Gaurav. You know, these were highly talented individuals, and possibly that's why they were also given the task of carrying out planning terror attacks, not only in India, but other countries as well, including the Denmark terror attack that was being plotted by Tahawwur Hussain Rana. And in fact, you know, just look at the meticulous planning that this terror plotter, Tahawwur Hussain Rana, had done, that his first world immigration company, which facilitates immigration, he brings in David Coleman, gives him that authority to operate under his cover in India, to come to India so that nobody suspects his activities and nobody suspects where all he's raking, which all places he's going. In fact, the very fact that there was a plan to open the first world immigration office even in Mumbai on instructions of Rana, and that gave him a cover to recce the places, to note down the fine details and eventually execute that terror attack where India had, bleeded. So this is a question for the investigative agencies, because this particular individual has been away from the hands of the Indian agencies. Certainly India wanted to get hold of Tahawwur Rana in order to fill those gaps in the investigation. Number one, as to who had put David Coleman into his hands. What is the ISI connection? What is the Pakistani agency's connection? Was the funding coming from Pakistan? If yes, who were the people that were routing that money to Chicago and then eventually to India? All these gaps that are in the investigation will be now filled by the NIA when that, probing begins, when he is confronted with the questions. Moreover, in this particular case, the NIA will be far more prepared, because remember, in this particular case, we have certain individuals who have been already put to justice. So, in most likelihood, it shouldn't take a lot of time to carry out the investigation.
We'll get you a clipping of then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, who, when Tahawwur Rana was let off, had pledged or words to that effect that terrorists must be brought to justice and everything must be done to bring terrorists to justice. And finally, this terrorist is being brought to India. That's the kind of conviction that is required to ensure that that message goes out to Pakistan, that that message goes out to anybody who will kill Indians or kill our people, that there is a system and that system will hunt you, track you and bring you to justice wherever you are. The Narendra Modi government has done it in the case of Tahawwur Rana. There are many others who've bled India. And it remains to be seen. One Balakot has happened. One Tahawwur Rana has happened. A surgical strike has happened. What more is done to send across that message to that state sponsor of radical Islamist terror, Pakistan, that terror is no longer an inexpensive option for Pakistan's Ghazwa-e-Hind against India. This 1,000-year war against India will only take Pakistan and Pakistanis to their graves. 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, Braves families have welcomed this extradition. You heard Tukaram Ombale's brother. Now hear Major Unni Krishnan's father. He says the villains are hiding in Pakistan. Pakistan knows India's limitations, but Major Unni Krishnan, who made the supreme sacrifice of
and trial for terror. Bigger anti-India conspiracy unravels. India gets Tahawwur Rana.
Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast. I'm Gaurav Sawant. The stage is set for Pakistani Canadian citizen Tahawwur Rana, formerly of the Pakistan Army, to be sent to India. He's being brought to India. He'll be here anytime now. And there are several missing links in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks case. Those missing links will be now complete. Those gaps that are there in the investigation. The role of the Pakistani state and quasi-state elements. The role of Hafiz Mohammad Saeed. The role of a certain Major Iqbal. There are several others. The then DG ISI. The then Pakistan Army Chief. And the preparations. Remember, not many people know that Tahawwur Rana was one of the key plotters of 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. He was the one who was running David Coleman Headley. He was the one who set up that company in Mumbai. And the second aspect, the sleeper cells within the country. Who are those Indians who were helping these Pakistanis, and not just in Mumbai? He had recceed places like Kochi, Pushkar. He traveled to Rajasthan. He traveled to Haridwar, Uttar Pradesh. He traveled to Hapur. Why was he traveling to Hapur? Why was he traveling to Agra? We'll seek answers to all these questions. I'm Gaurav Sawant as always. Let's get started with the headlines at 5. Stage set for Tahawwur Rana's trial in Delhi. NIA court receives 2611 case files for Rana trial. Right after landing in Delhi, Rana would be officially arrested by the National Investigation Agency and will be taken to the NIA headquarters in an armored personal carrier. Mega scoop on NIA's Rana terror probe lens on Hindu terror bogey by the Lashkar-e-Taiba death squad. The 10 Pakistani terrorists wore a kalava. The sacred thread had been got from Siddhivinayak temple and had fake identity cards with Hindu names. Maharashtra terror politics escalate. Sharad Pawar's NCP seeks fair trial for Rana. Congress ally says probe must be fair within Indian law. Piyush Goyal says this government does not feed biryani to terrorists. Survivors who escaped Lashkar death squad recount tales of absolute horror. Those who live to tell the tale seek death sentence for Rana. In other news, Donald Trump bowls another tariff googly. 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs for 75 countries, but no relief for China, where tariffs have been hiked by 125%. Our top focus story on this India Today special broadcast is Tahawwur Rana being brought to India. And it's extremely crucial because this terrorist plotter, a deserter of the Pakistan army, he was a captain in Pakistan army, he was a doctor, a medical doctor by profession. He is a deserter. He ran away from Pakistan, set base in Canada. But that is where he became Lashkar-e-Taiba's sleeper cell in Canada, along with David Coleman Headley, who was a Lashkar-e-Taiba sleeper cell in the United States of America. They were given details of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Pakistan ISI plot to bleed India. And they carried out reconnaissance. They recce'd several locations in Mumbai, but it wasn't restricted just to Mumbai. 2611 was just one part of their massive plan to bleed India through 1,000 cuts. Tahawwur Rana, along with his wife, so he brought his wife and they went to Kochi. They carried out reconnaissance in Kochi. Remember, Kochi is the Southern Naval Command. It also has a shipyard. It is a very vital city. That is where they carried out reconnaissance and recruited some people. He traveled to Hapur. Why would he travel to Hapur? And we'll seek answers to that. Remember, there are other terrorists who've been caught in Hapur before. He traveled to Agra. Now, the aim was to target Jewish centers in all these cities, including in Agra, where several foreign tourists come. He also traveled to Ahmedabad in Gujarat. There are several cities these terrorists and their handlers made them travel. They plan to bleed India through 1,000 cuts. Now that he's been brought to India, there are many, many details that will emerge. We get you more in this report.
Tahawwur Rana, one of the 2611 masterminds, hauled back to India. Nearly 16 years after his arrest over his role in the terror attack that shook the nation, Tahawwur Rana will face trial in India for the lives lost in one of the deadliest terror strikes to hit the country. The NIA will question the terrorist inside a high-security interrogation cell at the agency headquarters in Delhi. He will be confronted with proof of his role in the Mumbai terror attacks. Rana will also be interrogated on Pakistan's role, his multiple trips to India and the ISI Lashkar-e-Taiba links. Pakistan has also been formally asked to help in India's investigation. Only 12 members of the NIA have access to the terrorist. They include DG Sadanand Date, IG Ashish Batra and DIG Jaya Roy. Anyone else will have to get a permit first. Sources say Tahawwur Rana will be confronted with voice samples recorded during the 2611 attacks, and pictures, videos, emails will be used as evidence of his key role. 2 jails are being prepped to keep the 2611 mastermind. In Delhi's Tihar jail, a heavily fortified prison cell is waiting for Tahawwur Rana. At the NIA headquarters, a temporary holding cell is ready to keep the terrorist while interrogation continues. And in Mumbai, Arthur Road Jail's barrack number 12, Ajmal Kasab's old cell before he was hung to death, is also prepared to house Tahawwur Rana for the Mumbai Crime Branch probe. Over 160 lives were lost in the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks. Rana's trial will be one more step in the mission to give justice to the victims and survivors of 26/11. Bureau Report, India Today.
So Tahawwur Rana will formally be arrested by the National Investigation Agency, and then he would be taken to the NIA headquarters. There would be a medical examination that will be carried out to know about his medical condition as soon as NIA takes him in its custody. That is standard operating procedure. If required, he would be taken to a hospital or doctors would be present for his medical examination, because remember, he did not want to be handed over to India. Now, the terrorist who, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI probe, he was celebrating 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. When 166 people were being massacred, he was celebrating. He was watching it on television in Chicago. He'd already left India. Remember, he'd left India on the 21st of November 2008, and 26th of November, the 10 Pakistani terrorists struck. Back in Chicago, he was watching it on television and he was celebrating. And he said, all the 10 gentlemen, those 10 Pakistani terrorists, all the 10 gentlemen, he said, deserve Pakistan's highest military award. That is how he celebrated, with a drink in his hand. And this man was crying before he was being handed over to Indian agencies. He pleaded before the Supreme Court in the United States of America, saying he's a Muslim of Pakistani origin, he's an ex-army captain, and sending him to India is like signing his death warrant. So he knew the reality. He knew the reality, but this is how he was behaving. I have Shivani Sharma joining me from the NIA headquarters. I have Amit Bharadwaj standing by at the Palam Technical Area at Delhi. I have Nalini Sharma, who joins me from the NIA court, because he is to be produced in court in 24 hours after being in NIA custody. And Shivani, I want to begin by asking you, I believe NIA has its entire plan ready, and the chief of NIA, Shivani Sadanand Date, was the additional commissioner of Mumbai police during 26/11. He braved bullets. He braved bullets at the Kama hospital. Terrorists were firing at him. He was firing back. He was saving lives of patients at that hospital and nurses and their kin. He knows everything about this case inside out. He'd investigated this case in the Mumbai police. Now he heads NIA. Tell us how NIA intends to proceed with Tahawwur Rana.
Gaurav, as you were rightly saying that Tahawwur Rana, who was the conspirator of this attack, was celebrating in America then, but now it's turn of India to celebrate. The agencies are all set for his procedure to begin here, the investigation to begin here, and the NIA chief has been here in the meetings at the NIA headquarters. Everything is set for Tahawwur Rana's coming here when the process will begin, and he'll be shortly landing, from where he'll be brought to NIA headquarters in a special secure convoy of the armored vehicles and the SWAT team, the commandos of the Delhi police. And the NIA headquarters have also been turned into a fortress. You see, the road outside has been closed for normal traffic. There are barricades, there are additional forces, because we have to keep Tahawwur Rana safe and secure while the investigations go on. And once he lands here, the medical will happen. He'll be formally placed under arrest by the NIA. NIA would like to produce him today itself, but there's just a possibility, because as the time is passing by, there can be other steps also here, Gaurav, because, you know, he has to be produced before the court after 24 hours of his arrest. So if the arrest happens today late in the evening, then this he can be produced later also. So
stay with me, Nalini. You've tracked this case with the prosecutors, and the prosecutors have their entire case laid out. But there are many gaps in this case. So one, for the benefit of our younger viewers who may not have a major recall of what happened during 26/11 and the time preceding, what was Tahawwur Rana's role? What is the evidence that India has on him?
Like we've been telling our viewers, Tahawwur Rana had played a very crucial role when it came to the planning and the of the 26/11 attacks, because without the help that was provided.
Okay, give me a moment as I re-establish this link with Nalini, who's standing by at the NIA court. Akshita Nandgopal also joins us from the NIA headquarters in Delhi. And Akshita, you've been speaking not just to your sources in the police, but also to the survivors of 26/11, and they are very clear. Do not feed biryani to terrorists like it was done with Ajmal Amir Kasab, and like the way we've been treating terrorists in the past. India has a long history of feeding biryani to terrorists from Mastgul to Kasab. Enough of that. They want him to be tried and hanged, perhaps with daily hearings, Akshita.
There was a coordinated terrorist attack going on.
Absolutely, Gaurav. They're pushing for a speedy trial. Look, they waited 17 years for this moment, 17 years, and now finally Tahawwur Rana will be brought to India. And now that particular, part of the complication with regards to his extradition is taken care of, they want things to move quickly. I'm here at the NIA office. Quickly, let me show you around, Gaurav, because this entire area, and I've just arrived here, so this entire area has been completely closed off. Not a single vehicle is allowed in this stretch, which is why you see the entire road otherwise bustling, completely empty right now. So this entire area, there's a security blanket. For me to enter, I had to repeatedly show my media ID card to be even allowed to this point, very close to the NIA headquarters. So the area completely cordoned off, nobody being allowed in, and only if you've got the requisite IDs are you allowed this close to the NIA headquarters as I'm standing right now. But you're right in highlighting that, the 26/11 survivors who I spoke to this morning, they said very clearly, never forgive, never forget. And some of them, of course, have very publicly said that we want Tahawwur Rana to meet the same fate as Ajmal Kasab. We want a hanging to take place for his role in the 26/11 attacks. It's been delayed by 17 years, but nobody's forgotten, Gaurav. Whether, you as a journalist covering 26/11 or me much before I was a journalist when 26/11 happened, those memories are still fresh of how the terror attack played out, because it's the worst, the most dastardly terror attack on Indian soil so far. So none of us have ever forgotten the toll it's had on India, the fact that we lost 166 lives. So 17 years later, yes, delayed, but most definitely at this point, we are hoping that justice won't be denied. And key to that is to ensure a speedy trial. Now, once Tahawwur Rana lands here at the Palam Technical Airport, he's going to be brought in a convoy with a bulletproof vehicle, mind you, to ensure adequate security. He'll be brought to the NIA headquarters here. We understand that here there is, and I'm sure you know about these, there are holding cells, essentially,
yes.
And there'll be maximum security. Only a handful of officers will be allowed into one of these cells, which have been reserved and kept aside for Tahawwur Rana. The entire area right now sanitized.
Okay.
There was a
Let
question
me quickly
about
bring
whether
in
he'll be
Amit
taken to the court
Bharadwaj
or
also,
not.
who joins us
Looking
on
at the
this
time
broadcast.
right now,
Akshita, stay with me. Amit, at the airport, we are told it could happen anytime. Of course, the exact timing is being kept a closely guarded secret, because like during 26/11, there were sleeper cells then. There are apprehensions there could be sleeper cells now. So security perhaps prime concern to ensure he's brought to court, tried in court, and if convicted, hanged by court.
Right, Gaurav. Security remains to be the top priority for the agencies that are on the task as far as Tahawwur Rana's transportation is concerned. That is why we will not get the exact details of his landing, when that happened, unless the NIA issues the formal statement. But certainly what we are given to understand through our sources what the process is going to be. Let's again break it down for our viewers who might have just joined this evening, is that the moment Tahawwur Rana lands on the Indian soil, despite the fact that he is being brought back to India by the NIA's team, the NIA will formally put him under arrest on the Indian soil, because that's that is what is required as per the Indian law. After that, in the meantime, paperwork needs to be done, because this is not a regular arrest that you might be doing on the Indian soil. Rather, this is a case of extradition for which India has fought a long legal battle, a diplomatic exchange as well with the United States, and that is why the complete paperwork needs to be done as well, so that we do not end up leaving any loophole in this particular case, and we want a watertight case to be built. Once this process is over, the phase 2 and the most crucial phase of the entire operation for the day will begin. That is the transportation. The Nyayik Suraksha Vahini, a special group of the Delhi Police, wing of the Delhi Police, has been given the task of transporting Tahawwur Rana from the airport facility to the NIA's facility, whether it be the NIA headquarters or some other facility. If at all there are changes in the plan, this particular wing of the Delhi Police will be carrying him in an armored vehicle, which will be guarded by the SWAT commandos as well as the CAPF personnel.
Stay with me. Big story coming in. Rana, his interrogation is set to nail ISI's role in 26/11, and Pakistan is panicking already. Cornered Pakistan says it has nothing to do with Tahawwur Hussain Rana. Pakistan is saying Tahawwur Hussain Rana is no longer a Pakistani citizen. He's a Canadian citizen. He may be of Pakistani origin, but he's a Canadian citizen, and Pakistan has nothing to do with this case. Rana, remember, was a captain in Pakistan Army. He was a doctor in Pakistan. He, of course, was a deserter. But many know that the Pakistan ISI uses such elements. It plants them in sensitive countries like Canada, in the United States of America, Britain, or in other parts of Europe. They've done that in the past and used them as sleeper cells. Tahawwur Hussain Rana was a Lashkar-e-Taiba sleeper cell in Canada. David Coleman Headley was a Lashkar-e-Taiba sleeper cell in the United States. Pakistan is now trying to wash its hands off. Listen in.
Tahawwur Rana issue, we have conveyed our position regarding his Canadian nationality. And as far as our record indicates, he did not even apply for renewal of his Pakistani origin documents for the last 2 decades. I reiterate position, we will give further updates in due course.
So Pakistan is now trying to wash its hands off, but can Pakistan do that? I have a fine panel, a very fine panel of experts joining me on this special broadcast. I have PK Jain, additional DGP, former additional DGP of Special Operations Maharashtra Police, joining me on this show. I have Ratan Sharda joining me on this show. Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. He joins me on this broadcast. And let me begin by asking you, Mr. Jain, how crucial in your appreciation will the interrogation of Tahawwur Hussain Rana be? Because right now Pakistan says he is not ours. Whatever he may have done has nothing to do with Pakistan. Or words to that effect, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you very much for having me here. See, what else do you expect from Pakistan? Has Pakistan ever accepted any responsibility or any moral responsibility for their actions which they have been doing against the Indian nation for decades? Ever since 1947, for that matter. So expecting Pakistan to accept its misdeeds is I'm not seeing it happening at all. We have got Dawood Ibrahim, we have got n number of people. The entire conspiracy was exposed and even has gone through the judicial scrutiny system of the of India, and Kasab was convicted and hanged. Everything has been proved beyond doubt. Now, whatever evidence we kept before the US to show that Tahawwur Rana and David Coleman Headley were involved in this entire conspiracy and attack on India, in which number of foreign nationals were also killed, it has been shown. That's why probably this extradition has taken place, in addition to whatever is the anatomy between Mr. Modi and the US president. So all those things are responsible, but we have given a good dossier to US. We've given very many dossiers to Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan has used those dossiers to punish those people from whom they suspected the information leaked. So you don't expect anything from Pakistan at all. Now, coming to Tahawwur Rana, the man is going to be a goldmine of information for the Indian intelligence agencies. It is not that the case is now 17 years old. It is a question of that the person was very thickly networked into the ISI, into the government of Pakistan, and also Lashkar-e-Taiba. So see, all these three agencies are actively, even today, pursuing a line where they want to damage this country in a low-cost warfare, that is sending terrorists across
Sir,
the
can you
line of
explain? That's a very important thing you've said. Before I bring in Sushant Sareen and Ratan Sharda, you said he was thickly networked in ISI and LET. How can we, conclude that on the basis of what investigation in your appreciation, sir?
See, it is like this. He has been found guilty even in the US. He was convicted there. And then he was convicted for another offense, which when they were trying to cause some terrorist activities in Denmark.
Yes.
So he has a history to himself. Now, the very fact that on the basis of the information that the government of India has been able to furnish to the courts in the US, as well as the US administration, that finally we are seeing the day when this man has been brought to India. There is a lot of evidence against him. There are 279 or 280 calls between David Coleman and this fellow when this entire attack was taking place and prior to that. So he was in touch with David Coleman, who came and recceed all the places and drafted a plan as to how the terrorists would come, land in Mumbai, go to which all places. I mean, they did not fumble. They straight went to Leopold Cafe. They straight went to Taj Hotel. They straight went to the other two places, VT Station as well as Hotel Oberoi. So the entire thing was chalked out in detail. The logistic support of their coming to Mumbai and David Coleman coming to Mumbai, he's getting a fake passport in the sense that with forged credentials or with false credentials. That was all these things were managed by him. And today to Pakistan to say and deny that for 2 decades he's not been in touch with Pakistan, he's not renewed. So it's all a sham. You've already said it you very rightly pointed out that Pakistan, there's always an element. They will keep an element of deniability. In all such cases where you have people operating like this, the element of deniability is always maintained by the governments and the intelligence agencies. So
that is the big challenge now, Sushant Sareen. Sir, you've raised a very pertinent point. And Sushant Sareen, that's the challenge to break through that deniability of Pakistani deep state and government, because they're very brazen about it. I think they think India is so weak that they're brazen enough for Major Iqbal to be so openly in touch with Tahawwur Rana and David Coleman Headley and Hafiz Saeed to meet David Headley, knowing that he's a double agent with the Americans. So Sushant Sareen, one, what do you make of the Pakistani Foreign Office denial and the fact that this Rana is being now extradited to India?
Gaurav, I think the denial was only to be expected. In fact, last night also I told you that this was one of my first talking points, that they are going to blankly deny and they will make that same excuse that he was no longer a Pakistani national, he's a Canadian national, basically in a manner of speaking, throwing the Canadians under the bus, which I have no problems with. My only problem is with the Pakistani denials. But then Pakistan is such a shameless country that I don't expect anything better from them. You know, all that crocodile tears that all that third-rate so-called liberals like this Sethi and the Meers and what have you will say about what has happened on 26/11. I don't buy that at all, right? They are all cut from the same cloth, number one. Number two, please remember that we also made a mistake as 26/11 was happening. On the very next day, the statement which was coming out from the Indian side officials was that we suspect non-state actors from Pakistan. Now, it is inconceivable that an attack of this magnitude could have been mounted by so-called non-state actors. Number one, Gaurav, let's be very clear. There are no non-state actors. All of these so-called non-state actors are only created to give some degree of deniability to the state. Remember also that the then army chief had been the ISI chief, Ashfaq Kiani, at the time this plot was hatched. And they used a journalist by the name of Salim Shehzad, whom the ISI later bumped off. They used that guy to come out with a story that, you know, this plan had been prepared, but it was only on the drawing board, and that plan had been stolen by the Al-Qaeda and the LAT guys, and they put it into operation. And these Pakistani ISI guys were simply sucking lollipops and did not know what the hell happened. But we have evidence. that there were serving ISI officers involved. There were ISI bases which were used along the coast of Sindh to train some of these guys. All of that information is available. So there is no real deniability, despite a third-rate retired air marshal like Shehzad Chaudhry writing articles that, we still have doubts about what happened on 26/11, or that bigoted fellow Abdul Basit, who keeps coming and talking about, we don't know what happened on 26/11. Everybody knows what happened. That's the second part. The third part of it is that they tried to create this charade. One was, of course, that, the strings, the Kalava strings that they were wearing. And Gaurav, if you go back, you check out the old footage from the Pakistani television of those days. The Pakistani first 2 or 3 days when identification had not been done of these terrorists, the Pakistanis were saying, well, this, Kalava is a Hindu thing. This has been made by, this probably a Hindu terror organization. That was one. Secondly, there is a third-rate journalist, Talat Hussain. He started interviewing this third-rate lawyer who claimed Kasab was actually a nice guy working in Nepal, and he had been kidnapped by Ra to bring him to India so that they can plant him out here. That was the second. The third thing these fellows did was that when that conversation was going on between Sajid Mir and some of these terrorists in the Habad house,
in the Shabad house,
and they were training these guys to speak in an Indian accent. But a Punjabi can't speak in an Indian accent to save his life, especially a Pakistani
By the way,
Muslim.
we have those audio clips, if it's legally permitted, and I've done a full show on that audio on that audio conversation that was happening in that control room in Karachi and Mumbai. When the terrorists, when they saw helicopters coming in and NSG dropping down on that Habad house, they panicked. So they called Pakistan, ki ab kya kare, we are about to be killed. And they said, X banao, X bana ke fire karo. I remember that. I was there covering that Habad house the very next morning. But stay with me, you've raised a very pertinent point.
Allow me a half a minute. At that point of time, what they tried to initially pretend is that these are Indian Mujahideen terrorists, right?
Yes.
And then later on, they decided, okay, forget the Indian Mujahideen thing. Let's try and give it a Hindu angle. And adding to that Hindu angle thing, they had their own people out here who were holding press conferences and writing books talking about RSS ki sazish. They were,
since you've mentioned this, let's talk about this in greater detail.
Politicians talking about it. So they had their own people batting for them in India. So why do you need terrorists from Pakistan when you have traitors from India, holding the Pakistani line and spreading it out here, the Pakistani narrative? That is what happened on 26/11.
That's a very serious point you make. I have Mr. Jain with me, I have Ratan Sharda with me, and let's talk about this in greater detail since you've raised it, Sushant Sareen, for the benefit of our viewers and especially for the benefit of our younger viewers. It's been 17 years since 26/11, so you must hear this. Tahawwur Rana's interrogation is expected to shed light on terror sleeper cells in India. Interrogators are also expected to learn more about this bogey of Hindu terror that was systematically plotted and spread through these 10 Pakistani terrorists who attacked Mumbai during 26/11. The year was 2008. Now, what was this bogey of Hindu terror? Probe reveals how David Coleman Headley brought Kalava. You understand Kalava? It's that sacred thread we wear. Now, David Coleman Headley bought Kalava, or that sacred thread, from Siddhivinayak temple in Mumbai. The probe revealed how Pakistan tried to palm off 26/11 as a Hindu terror attack. David Headley revealed that Hindu terror camouflage was to be given to this terror attack. So what did investigators find out? That Ajmal Amir Kasab and 9 other terrorists who came with him all carried fake identity cards, all with Hindu names. So former NIA Inspector General Loknath Behra, he also revealed Rana's terror plan. The probe officer in 26/11 case revealed how Rana carried out a recce, not just in Mumbai or Kochi, but he also wanted communal violence in India. That was Pakistan's evil plan. So he traveled to the Pushkar Mela in Rajasthan, and he thought a terror attack could be carried out in Pushkar. He then traveled to Haridwar. Why would he travel to Haridwar? Because according to Loknath Behra in his investigations, and he was IG NIA at that time, their plan was to target the Kumbh Mela. They also traveled to Kochi. Rana traveled to Kochi with his wife. Why? They wanted to set up an office there. Kochi is the Southern Naval Command. Kochi also has a shipyard. It has strategic vital assets and vital points of the Indian Armed Forces. They wanted to carry out recce. So they hired people there. Who were the people who were hired? There are many, many questions that need to be answered. I spoke to Loknath Behra just a short while back. Listen in. How crucial is Tahawwur Rana being brought to India for interrogation in your appreciation, sir? What are we likely to find out?
See, actually, he is a very, very key player because if you remember, in 2011, we actually in the National Investigation Special Court, we charge sheeted him in Delhi for the larger conspiracy behind Mumbai attack.
Yes.
See, his coming will be actually filling some of the missing links and the blanks in this particular case. I personally feel that maybe some other names may crop up.
Very interesting. Names like names of people like names in India or names in Pakistan?
Both. I mean, because if you see, Rana used to travel quite a bit. He even came to Cochin.
Yes.
So you don't know, actually, by that time, we had never gotten access to Rana to interrogate, unlike Headley. So many of the things will be brought out by our very competent agencies like NIA and others, and even Mumbai police. So I will not be surprised that some new names also come up.
You had investigated this case very extensively, including Tahawwur Rana's visit to Cochin. What was his interest in Cochin? What did he want to bomb there?
I see, Cochin is a very strategic place. We are little worried about, actually, see, it has Southern Naval Command, the shipyard, all strategic installations are here. So we were worried, and he actually did interview in a hotel which is very near to the waterfront. So that time, but we never knew, because we never knew, actually, we did not get chance to speak to him. Now there is a chance that he probably this part Headley also did not say us. So whether he had recce'd any place in Cochin. So that can be actually extracted from him.
Sir, I was reporting in Chicago and we knew of places like NDC, National Defense College in Delhi. We knew about Siddhivinayak Temple in Mumbai. The Cochin, naval base, some information had filtered out. What else? What were the other locations that they were wrecking for further attacks? Because I believe Hafiz Saeed had told them that you have to repeatedly attack India. And even after 26/11, their wrecking continued, sir, till the time he was arrested in America at the O'Hare airport, if I remember correctly.
If I correctly remember, they were talking about Kumbh Mela. Something like that. Yeah, so that time I remember that particular thing. He was taking that these people who are actually coming to Haridwar and all. And also they went to Pushkar. Pushkar is one of the targets. Other things I'm not able to remember.
So whether it's a highly educated Pakistani medical doctor like Tahawwur Rana or a David Coleman Headley or an illiterate Ajmal Amir Kasab, the mindset is the same. Ghazwa Hind, they want to bleed India through 1,000 cuts and target kafirs in India. I wonder if people after 26/11 woke up, or do we continue, at least elements in our society, continue to sleepwalk through Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. Now I want to get you some details that emerge from investigations. It's not source-based information. Each thing is attributed either to Federal Bureau of Investigation or National Investigation Agency or Rakesh Maria in his book. Listen in. So David Coleman Headley told his interrogators, and I quote, "I purchased the red and yellow wristband. I forget its name. I bought it so that the 10 youth could wear it as a cover so that people would think they're Indians," unquote. Ajmal Amir Kasab was not only given the Kalawa, he was also given a Hindu identity card. Now, Rakesh Maria, then former Mumbai commissioner, he was earlier crime branch chief, he was one of the chief interrogators and the person who first interrogated Ajmal Amir Kasab. Well, he said, had Ajmal Amir Kasab not been caught alive, not my words, his words, Had Ajmal Amir Kasab, that Pakistani terrorist, not been caught alive, the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks would have been dubbed as the handiwork of Hindu terrorists. Kasab was among that group of 10 that carried the attack on November 2008 and the lone Lashkar-e-Taiba to have been captured alive. They had been given Hindu names, red-colored strings. In his memoir, let me say it now, Rakesh Maria, who was heading the crime branch in CID and was investigating 26/11, he said Lashkar-e-Taiba wanted Kasab to be killed and it to be known that he was a Bengaluru resident called Samir Dinesh Chaudhary with a red thread tied around his wrist. They would have palmed it off as Hindu terror. But their plan did not succeed because of one person. And his name was Tukaram Ombole. Tukaram Ombole caught Kasab. He took a hail of bullets in his chest. Ajmal Amir Kasab fired his entire AK-47 rifle, entire magazine into his chest. So 28 bullets in his chest, but Tukaram Ombole continued to hold on to Ajmal Amir Kasab. He could not run away. He was caught alive. And that is how Rakesh Maria and the Mumbai police knew that he was from Faridkot in Pakistan. He said, and I quote, this is what Rakesh Maria wrote in his book, "If all had gone well, he, that is Kasab, would have been dead with a red string tied around his wrist like a Hindu. We would have found an identity card on his person with a fictitious name, Samir Dinesh Chaudhary, student of Arunodaya Degree and PG College in Dilkhush Nagar in Hyderabad, 500060, resident of 254 Teachers Colony, Bengaluru." Maria writes, there would have been screaming headlines on newspapers claiming how Hindu terrorists have attacked Mumbai. Over-the-top TV journalists would have made a beeline for Bengaluru to interview his family and neighbors. 26/11 or 26/11 would have been passed off as Hindu terror. And this is shocking. This is shocking, Sushant Sareen. The evil that Pakistan is, their eye for meticulous detail is actually there for the world to see now.
Yeah, that's true, Gaurav. And the problem is that very often we ignore, this demonic kind of an urge in the Pakistanis to carry out the kind of crimes they carry out against India, against Hindus in particular, but against India in general. And we tend to, miss out on how much of attention they pay on how they want to carry it out so that they can assume this posture of plausible deniability and then, pretend like all their third-rate so-called non-liberals in Pakistan do, giving these crocodile tears and stuff like that. I don't buy anything that comes from Pakistan. They're the most insincere and treacherous people that you can ever come across. So, but to give the devil their due, they do make these plots in a very meticulous manner. Also, look at the way they have given a sanctuary to terrorists like Tiger Memon and Dawood Ibrahim. Despite all international pressure, the Pakistanis have kept them in safe custody. They've ensured that nothing happens to them, nothing happens to people like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar and other third-rate terrorists that they associate with. So I think we need to give them that credit, which is why I say that we must have a legal system, Gaurav, whereby we can sentence these people and pronounce punishments on them in absentia and then leave it to our agencies to mete out that punishment in whatever manner they deem fit and whatever manner necessary.
Absolutely. But Ratan, Sharda, apologies for coming to you so late, but I want to understand from you, sir. Look at how evil their plan was. 10 Pakistani terrorists attack India, bleed India, and then the plan was to palm it off as Hindu terror. Finally, perhaps it will come out who were their local collaborators.
Gaurav, you will remember General Bipin Rawat's famous talk about 2.5 front war. That half front is much more dangerous than 2 fronts which are known to us. And this urge to create a Hindu terror myth began in 2007-8 by changing the entire complexion of investigation in Malegaon and in Samjhauta Express. So then you had Colonel Purohit framed, you had Swami Asimanand framed, and many others framed, and let Pakistan off the hook. When you let a terrorist state off the hook, you find 26/11 at our doors. And not only that, after that, within a month, how can a book be written? You have written books. Everybody sitting here has written books. Even research paper doesn't end in 1 month. You had an entire book of RSS's Sajish in a month, where everybody crowed about the RSS role, despite the clear-cut evidence of the person being a Muslim. I salute today Tukaram Umbale. Without him, we would have been. I shudder to think about what would have happened in this country had he not been able to capture Kasab alive. And they were made sacrificial goats. And deniability, you talk about right from the tribal attack, so-called tribal attack in 1947. When has Pakistani taken onus of any of their own people? They have not even buried their own brave Jawans of Kargil. They were buried with honor by our own forces. And the half friend we talk about now, already there are people are saying he should get very good, legal support. And there is a gentleman today, Prithviraj Chauhan, who who spoke in one of the channels saying when this Tahawwur had a very good legal support and rights in USA. That's why he could be safe for so many years. Unlike India, where minorities have no rights. Now, this is the complexion of the game you will see in coming days.
And well, that's exactly what Tahawwur Rana had also said, that he's a Pakistani, he's a Muslim, and he's an ex-army captain. Sending him to India would be akin to signing his death warrant. But Mr. Jain, your appreciation, because I want to dwell for a moment on this bogey of
6 conspiracy, with the result that today the actual accused have been discharged from that case. Some fake accused have been brought in and booked. And now that case will go to dogs. I mean, it has no future at all. And subsequently, what happened in the Home Ministry, we have the ex-Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, who even today stands by his word. And this entire conspiracy of Bhagwa Atankawad was brought out. It is so damn unfortunate in this country. Why do we need enemies in Pakistan? We have enemies in this country who are prospering in this country itself. People like Digvijay Singh and people like, I don't want to name the other leaders.
I don't want to name any leader till an investigation. Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. I don't want to name any leader till an investigation is carried out and completed. We hold. Yes, I hold Mr. Digvijay Singh in his esteem, and perhaps he will clarify. He did try and clarify in Parliament when Sudhanshu Trivedi said, I did not name anyone. Aapne udta tir kyun le liya? And, Union Home Minister Amit Shah also, jumped into that. But Sushant Sareen, there's a precedent. Mr. Jain rightly pointed out to the first Malegaon blast case and said how it was changed. The same thing happened with Samjhauta, where Lashkar-e-Taiba's Arif Kasmani is mentioned in UN records, and that too was changed. Does that indicate India's rather strange approach to tackling Pakistan state-sponsored terror, Sushant Sareen?
So, Gaurav, I think the question we need to ask ourselves is why in the last 10 years, when this ambiguous approach towards terrorism has been given up, and we are ready to call a terrorist, regardless of what his caste, creed, or whatever his background is. Why do you think the incidents of terrorism have come down so much? And before that period, you're talking about the Samjhauta Express blast, and I think that was really unfortunate because they tried to pin it on, a saint. They tried to pin it on some of the other Hindus. They had no evidence, none whatsoever. They manufactured evidence, and they gave the Pakistanis a clean chit. Okay. Now, I can't think of anything more treacherous than this to do to your own country. But even earlier, in the 93 blast, what did we do? We had the then person in charge come on television and give an interview and say, well, we said not 12 blasts, but 13 blasts. 13 blasts. Muslim majority area, so that, we can say that this was a secular bomb attack. Is this secularism? Is this how you define secularism? Why do you think secularism has become a 4-letter word in this country when you start batting for terrorists, right? And you try and cover up their crimes under the carpet. You try and airbrush those kind of crimes. In my book, if somebody is responsible, please throw the book at him. I don't give a damn whether he's a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever he might be.
Absolutely.
Okay, but are you going to, for your political reasons and to even the scores with your political rivals, manufacture a conspiracy where none existed, and give a bailout to your biggest enemy state, Pakistan, the guy who has been sponsoring terrorism and killing thousands of Indians. Are you going to do this? Now, if this is how you're going to run a country, then then that half front that Mr. Rasharda has been talking about actually is a far more dangerous thing for India than anything else.
So, that half front, the more dangerous elements are those who give cover fire to Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. I have live images that are coming in from Palam technical area. That's a police vehicle that is coming out. I want to quickly cut across to Shivani Sharma, who joins me for more. Shivani, I believe there is some movement that is taking place. I believe there is some information that's also been received at NIA headquarters. Bring us details, Shivani.
What we've received through our sources is that the aircraft that is carrying Tahawwur Rana will be landing at around 18:22 at the Palam area. And here at NIA headquarters, there is the security being upped. The vehicles have been placed out here. You can see the barricades are here. The police and the additional forces that have been deployed on standby since morning have been here, and they all are ready to receive Rana as he lands in India. He'll be landing in some time, and then he'll be taken into arrest by the NIA, and NIA has already got the approval of the Law Ministry for taking the custody of Tahawwur Rana to take the investigation ahead. So what we see is that an alert is in place. There are cars and special vehicles that are being placed outside the NIA headquarters. The additional forces are out here. I would like to show you, if I can show you these vehicles which have been placed here outside the NIA headquarters and the barricades that have been put, and the forces are waiting for Tahawwur Rana, and there is a probability, Gaurav, that after being put into arrest by the forces in the on the Indian soil, he can be brought to NIA headquarters directly, because NIA would want to proceed with the process in due protocols when he comes here. And it was a possibility that he can be produced today itself, but it seems little unlikely because of the delay that is being caused in his landing here in Delhi. So when he will land, there's a possibility he can be put under arrest, of course, and then brought to the NIA headquarters, which are ready. They are awaiting since morning. The roads have been closed here for normal traffic. The DG is inside. He is conducting meetings, and preparations are being viewed by him, that what will be done, what will be the next course of action when Rana is here at the NIA headquarters in Delhi.
There are some who are trying to play down the importance of Tahawwur Hussain Rana being extradited to India and his interrogation. But do keep in mind, Tahawwur Hussain Rana was the money. He had the money. He funded David Coleman Headley. He paid for that office to be set up in Mumbai. And how did he get the money? Now, probe deeper, you will get a Pakistan ISI connection, and perhaps that is what will happen. But that's only step one. He knew of the entire plot. He knew the places that had to be targeted, and 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks was just one part of it. Remember, between 11 and 21 November 2008, he'd recceed all the locations that the terrorists were to target. So he also knows who the local handlers were. He arranged funds even for David Coleman Headley in India. So who were the Indians who were funding David Coleman Headley? When Headley traveled from one city to the other, Rana himself traveled with his wife to Kochi. He traveled to several other cities, including Pushkar and Haridwar and Hapur. What was the bigger plan? So his interrogation will not just reveal those missing links in 26/11, but also future terror attack plans of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Pakistan's ISI. We'll continue to track this story very, very closely. A quick break, back with lots more. There's so much evidence, and we have gone through that evidence, and we'll get to details on the other side of a quick break. The evidence that NIA has painstakingly gathered against Tahawwur Hussain Rana, and how former Home Secretary feels he will be convicted for sure. He may even be sentenced to death. Details coming up.
Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hi, I am AI anchor Sana, bringing the top headlines for you, presented by Motorola. Tejasvi says, we will form government in Bihar. Asian markets surge as Trump pauses tariffs. Temperature crosses 40 degrees Celsius in parts of North India.
Hello?
You must be tired like me of hearing countless broadcasts like these.
Cyber frauds are the new age white-collared crime.
They don't break into your home, but they break into your bank account directly.
Project Shield is an India Today initiative to expose their dirty tricks
and help you outsmart the scammers. Come join us and be 2 steps ahead of fraudsters, because better safe than sorry.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hi, I am AI anchor Sana, bringing the top headlines for you, presented by Motorola. Tejasvi says, we will form government in Bihar. Asian markets surge as Trump pauses tariffs. Temperature crosses 40 degrees Celsius in parts of North India.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hi, I am AI anchor Sana, bringing the top headlines for you, presented by Motorola. Tejasvi says, we will form government in Bihar. Asian markets surge as Trump pauses tariffs. Temperature crosses 40 degrees Celsius in parts of North India.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hi, I am AI anchor Sana, bringing the top headlines for you, presented by Motorola. Tejasvi says, we will form government in Bihar. Asian markets surge as Trump pauses tariffs. Temperature crosses 40 degrees Celsius in parts of North India.
भारत तो बहुत समझदारी से इस पूरे विषय को पहले से संभाल रही है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी और प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप ने फरवरी में ही निर्णय ले लिया था कि हम आपसी संबंध बढ़ाते हुए बायलैटरल ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट एक ऐसा करार करेंगे जो भारत और यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के बीच व्यापार को सरल भी करेगा, 500 बिलियन तक यानी आज से 2.5 गुना बढ़ाने का काम भी करेगा। देशवासियों को नौकरी के और अधिक साधन मिलेंगे, देश की अर्थव्यवस्था को और बल मिलेगा।
To many financiers stands by you always. अपार देश का तार।
Good evening, you're tuned into a special edition of Super 6 here on India Today. I'm Akshita Nandagopal out to the streets of Delhi. Behind me, a few meters away, is the NIA headquarters, where in an hour or so from now, you can expect Tahawwur Rana to be brought here. The 2611 mastermind and plotter will be brought down to Delhi, touching down on Indian soil after 17 years for the very first time. There's a dust storm that's hit the streets of the national capital. That's not going to stop us from getting you every single update, every second update that comes in on Tahawwur Rana's extradition to India. A huge diplomatic coup that sets the wheels of justice moving in the 2611 case, 17 years after the terror attacks. As the 2611 survivor told me, never forgive, never forget. We're going to be getting you all the updates here on India Today, as in the next 20 minutes or so, Tahawwur Rana is expected to touch down in Delhi. Those updates coming your way. First, as always, a quick check of the top headlines. (2611) Mumbai attacks plotter Tahawwur Rana to land shortly. NIA court receives 2611 case files for Rana's trial. Right after landing, Rana would be arrested by NIA and taken to NIA HQ in a bulletproof car. Mega scoop on NIA's Rana terror probe lens on Hindu terror bogey by LET death squad. 10 Pak attackers wore Hindu Kalava bands, sacred thread from Siddhivinayak temple used. Maharashtra terror politics erupt. Sharad Pawar's NCP seeks fair trial for Rana. Congress ally says probe must be fair within Indian law. Survivors who escaped Lashkar death squad recount tales of horror. Those who live to tell the tale, survivors seek death sentence for Tahawwur Rana. And the other big stories of the day, Trump bowls another tariff googly. 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs for 75 countries, but no relief for China, which faces a hike of 125%. And big India Today impact. Day after Haryana Beti Bachao expose, doctor behind sex determination and female feticide suspended. So as we get you our special coverage here from outside the NIA headquarters, it's here that Tahawwur Rana will be brought and kept here in a lockdown facility that we'll get you details of. But first, the big news break coming in. When will Tahawwur Rana be brought down to India? In about 20 minutes from now, at 6:22 p.m. is when that special aircraft with the terrorists and with our Indian security officials will be touching down on Indian soil, will be touching down in Delhi. That's the big news break coming in. Confirmation that you're hearing first here on India Today, that at 6:22 p.m. is when the flight will land at the Palam Technical Airport. We can also tell you that right now where I am at the NIA headquarters, the entire area has been barricaded off. There's a sea of security that's been deployed and it's been completely closed off. No vehicles are being allowed to fly in any of these areas. And I already see an additional layer of security being deployed here, suggesting that we're getting closer to the time of the convoy bringing Tahawwur Rana. There's going to be minimal movement. You also don't, at this point, we're not going to expect that there will be images really of Tahawwur Rana in transit, because it's going to be a smooth operation. There's very, very secretive, in fact, movement at this point. They're not giving us details of where Rana could be taken. Will he be taken to court tomorrow? None of that being divulged for obvious security reasons. But we will be getting you the details of when Rana touches down and much more. I have with me on this broadcast Shivani Sharma. We also have our reporters joining us from the Palam International Airport. Amit Bharadwaj is there. Nalini Sharma is joining us live from the Special NIA Court. Gaurav Sawant, who was covering the 26/11 attacks and subsequently the trial in Chicago, is also with us in the studio. Shivani, I'll just quickly come across to you first for that update. We're hearing Tahawwur Rana is expected to land at exactly 6:22 p.m., 19 minutes from now.
Akshita, there's a big news break from India Today that Tahawwur Rana's flight will be landing at 6:22 p.m. at the ARC in Palam Air Base. And this is a United States aircraft, a Gulfstream aircraft that will be landing here in some time from now, from where he will be brought to the NIA headquarters. This is the NIA headquarters where we are standing right now, Akshita. And all the preparations have been done. But the big news is that at 6:22, the aircraft is scheduled to arrive at the ARC at the Palam Air Base. This is a United States aircraft, a Gulfstream aircraft that has been deployed for this particular mission of extraditing Tahawwur Rana along with the NIA officials, who will be shortly landing in Delhi. And then Tahawwur Rana will be placed formally under arrest by the NIA. The medical will be done. He will be brought to the NIA headquarters and the proceedings will further come into action. Akshita.
Okay, so you can expect those formalities to be kicked in even once he reaches the Palam airport. There are going to be a slew of formalities that will kick off, including the formal arrest of Tahawwur Rana before he's brought here to the NIA headquarters. Surprisingly, in Delhi, of course, we've seen a dust storm. Now it's starting to rain as well amid the summer heat. But we're going to be staying solid, getting you those updates. Let me bring in Amit Bharadwaj, who's joining us live from the Palam airport. Amit, you've been camping from early morning there. What kind of movement are you seeing around you? Can you also detail for us the formalities that will take place once Tahawwur Rana lands there at the Palam airport just about 15 minutes from now?
Akshata, it's become a little stormy out here, possibly also indicating what's awaited in a few minutes from now. Tahawwur Rana will be landing on the Indian soil in the Indian Delhi airport facility, and after that what you will see is the process, the legal process will be followed up. So the moment he lands on the Indian soil, even though the NIA team has been accompanying him, extraditing him from US to India, what will happen is that National Investigative Agency's personnel will put him under arrest. So that formal arrest will happen the moment he lands in India, and then there will be a series of paperwork that needs to be done, because remember, this is not a regular arrest that you have on Indian soil, rather a person which has been extradited with a lot of effort and diplomatic maneuvers between India and US, and eventually he's landing in India. He will be arrested today, so it has to be the SOP needs to be followed up. So once that paperwork is done, the phase 2 of the entire mission, and the most important one for the day, needs to be executed seamless, for which since morning we have seen, since yesterday we have seen all the agencies which have to work in tandem. They have been holding meetings and executing each part of it. The pre-planning has been already done. That is the transportation phase. Phase 2 will have transportation in armored vehicle with SWAT commandos around that armored vehicle. Tahawwur Rana will be transported to an NIA facility, and thereon the legal process will begin. But before that, the medical also needs to be done. So India wants to, maintain every paperwork and develop
so those formalities will start moving forward. Let me just quickly bring in Gaurav Sawant also on this, who's very, very familiar with these protocols, with these processes that usually follow soon after an extradition. So while you'll see the arrest also taking place, Gaurav, formal arrest by the NIA once Tahawwur Rana touches down on Indian soil, the NIA judge in Delhi has also received the 2611 case files. There's a big fat dossier prepared right now by officials against Tahawwur Rana as well.
The fact that the extradition has happened is an indicator that India has a mountain of evidence. And G.K. Pillai, former Home Secretary, he said India has enough evidence to convict him, and he believes that there is enough evidence even to hang him for his alleged role in the 2611 Mumbai terror attacks. Now, this is very serious. I covered that case in Chicago. I covered the 2611 Mumbai terror attacks and the entire trial of Ajmal Amir Kasab, including his conviction and subsequently hanging in Maharashtra. So there are a couple of things that come out very clearly. When Kasab and 9 other Pakistani terrorists were carrying out this terror attack, Akshita, this man, Tahawwur Rana, was watching it on television and celebrating it. There was a party. He celebrated and said all these 10 gentlemen deserve Pakistan's highest award for bleeding India. So that is his mindset. And it's not just his mindset. Whether it's an illiterate Ajmal Amir Kasab or a highly trained doctor like Tahawwur Rana, it is this mindset of Ghazwa-e-Hind or bleeding India. Through 1,000 cuts, that Pakistan's ISI uses these elements to bleed our country. And they've done it in the past. They tried it subsequently because there was no response. I would also like to draw your attention to India's counter-strike at Balakot in 2019 after Pulwama. Following that, if you notice, except Jammu and Kashmir, we haven't had a terror attack across the length and breadth of our country because they've realized their dream of Ghazwa-e-Hind stops at Hindustan when Hindustan strikes back.
Okay. Can I just bring our viewers' attention to the latest news break coming in? And Gaurav, do stay with me. We've got details really of the flight in which Tahawwur Rana is being brought to India. Shivani had told us about this, that Tahawwur Rana is being brought on a special aircraft, which is a Gulfstream. The call sign AOJ 96M. The flight is scheduled to land at 6:22 p.m. It will land at the Palam Technical Airport, a high-security airport also reserved, of course, for VIP movement. It's here at the Palam Airport that this flight will touch down. This is a Gulfstream, call sign AOJ 96M, that's currently making its way to the Delhi airport. So in just about 12 minutes from now, at 6:22 p.m. dot, is when this special aircraft will touch down in Delhi. Remember that the entire extradition process has been very hush-hush. We didn't know where the aircraft made its pit stop for refueling and rest. We don't know about the officials on board accompanying Tahawwur.
See, there are NIA officials on board, there are IB officials on board, there is Tahawwur Rana, of course, and this is being done in coordination with the agencies of United States, and this is a big operation between India and United States. Is being coordinated by both the countries together, and shortly this aircraft will be landing at the Aviation Research Center of Palam Air Base. This is a US aircraft, the Gulfstream aircraft that we have got to know through our sources. This will be landing shortly at Palam, and thereafter it will be going into the hangar of the Aviation Research Center there at Palam. And after all the formalities are done, Akshita, there will be, of course, many checks that will be happening there. There might be a medical test of Tahawwur Rana as soon as he lands at Delhi. And then after all the formalities, he can be placed under arrest formally at the on the Indian soil by NIA. And then he will be moved to the NIA headquarters. That's what we know. All the security has been beefed up out here at the NIA headquarters. There are barricades that have been put at place since morning. Additional forces are on standby here at since 7 a.m.
Shivani, my apologies for interrupting, but more details that are emerging, you know, on that aircraft in which Tahawwur Rana is travelling. We are getting you those updates. We can confirm to you that he is being brought to New Delhi in a super mid-sized business jet. This aircraft was hired, in fact, from a Vienna-based aircraft charter service. It took off from Miami in the US. Details emerging of the time as well. It took off from Miami in the US on Wednesday, 2:15 a.m. local time. So in the dead of the night is when, in fact, this flight took off. It reached, in fact, in Romania at 7 p.m. local time. In Bucharest is where the mid-stop was, that pit stop, where, in fact, you saw the refueling taking place and a brief rest stop. That took place in Romania at 7 p.m. local time. And after almost 11 hours of break, it took off for New Delhi at 6:15 a.m. local time on Thursday. This is a Gulfstream G550. It's an ultra long-range mid-sized jet manufactured by Gulfstream. And this is, in fact, the aircraft that's bringing Tahawwur Rana back. It can carry a maximum of 19 passengers. And we understand that this flight has right now Tahawwur Rana, as Shivani was telling us, it's also got members of the IB, the NIA present inside. So these are the details that we've been able to pick up right now. Another update that's coming in ahead of Tahawwur Rana landing in Delhi. The court staff of the special NIA judge has also come to court. I want to bring in Nalini Sharma on this, who's reporting from the Patiala House Court, which houses the NIA court. Nalini, give us those updates. We understand that besides what you've been showing us from morning, there's been additional security barricading and deployment.
Absolutely, Akshita. In fact, the security has been present at the Patiala House Court since the morning when there were reports coming in that Tahawwur Rana is expected to land and the time wasn't confirmed yet. Security has been deployed since then. In fact, to the extent that even the entry of the media persons into the court has been restricted. Everybody's ID card is being checked. So it's high-level security that has been deployed. Multiple SWAT teams are doing rounds of the India Gate Circle where the special NIA court is located. Along with that, the security teams are also, there are senior officials of the Delhi police that are also taking stock of the security situation at Patiala House Court. And all this is happening, Akshita, even when we don't have a confirmation regarding whether Tahawwur Rana will actually be produced physically before the court or not, or will he only be produced virtually. Considering the fact that it's its first appearance, the NIA ideally should produce him physically before the court so that the judge also has an option to interact with him, see his body language, ask him about his health conditions. Because remember, Akshita, in his plea before the US Supreme Court, Tahawwur Rana had specifically detailed all the ailments that he's suffering with, which is why it's also going to be important what his medical checkup reports say, which will also be submitted before the court. Now, whether he'll be produced today or tomorrow is something that we have to wait and watch out for. Although the courts are off on both the days, there is a duty magistrate who's sitting. So when the court's holidays are on, it's usually before the duty magistrate that the production of any arrested person happens, because there's a small 24-hour window within which they have to be produced before the court. So somebody has to be in charge of that, and the duty magistrate takes on that responsibility. Now, the court staff is obviously present. 24 hours is the window that they have to go ahead and produce Tahawwur Rana virtually
or in person at the NIA court. And as we get you those updates as well, Nalini, just stay with us. We can confirm for you that there's a huge security blanket that's currently deployed at the NIA court. It's led to speculation of whether Tahawwur Rana will be produced in person in court. But there's also a possibility that this could get pushed tomorrow. It's already 6:15. Flight expected to land at about 6:22 p.m. Then the formalities will kick in of formally arresting Tahawwur Rana in the Palam airport. Then he's going to be brought to the NIA headquarters, by which time it doesn't look likely that the court will still be operating unless under special circumstances they choose to do so. But in all, a 24-hour window as per protocol for the NIA to seek his custody and to get custody as well. So we will track those updates. Let me also quickly on this broadcast introduce our guests. We've got Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar joining us on this broadcast to explain what it's really taken diplomatically for this extradition to be made possible. We also have SP Vaid, former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here on India Today. 17 years it's taken for Tahawwur Rana to be brought to India, and now you're going to see movement finally 17 years on for one step being taken at least closer towards justice for the 2611 victims. And Ambassador Sajjanar, I just want you to throw light for our viewers on really what it's taken to make this extradition possible for a man who was convicted in the US, serving a prison sentence in the US, acquitted for his role in the 2611 attacks in a US court, and yet being extradited by America on India's request.
Thank you very much, Akshita. I think it speaks volumes about the determination of India, both at the political level as well as at the official, operational and technical level. Because this is a very complex process. You know, I personally handled cases relating to, extradition and, submission of all documentation, etc. And I can tell our viewers that it is a very tedious process. It's a very, precise, accurate, exact process. It has to be like that. All documentation, it has to be, vetted and verified. All because, as far as all these 2611 attacks that took place in Mumbai, all the reports would have been in Marathi. Those thousands of pages, each one of them has to be translated into English, has to be diarized, notarized, verified, and submitted. So, it's not an easy process. And as far as the courts are concerned, they are very legally minded, as I guess they should be. But they can really find a fault with any particular aspect, and then it has to go back. All the documentation has to go back and redone, reworked, and brought back. So at the technical level, that is the issue, that is the challenge. But equally at the political level, I think there has to be both in terms, there has to be confidence between the leadership of the two sides, and we have seen that over the last...
Very true, and I think this is clearly, a very telling sign of the leadership and the more diplomacy that we're talking about. Ambassador Sajjanar, I'll request you to stay with me, and my apologies for interrupting, but just that we're getting in also a news break right now, considering we're just about 2-3 minutes away from the flight in which Tahawwur Rana is travelling, landing in Delhi. I want to bring in Ankit Kumar. He's the editor of our OSINT setup in India Today. Ankit, I understand you've got the flight details with you. Take it away.
Akshita, no guessing games here. Conclusive evidence that the aircraft carrying the key plotter of 2611 terror attack, Tahawwur Rana, is flying over Delhi's airspace at an altitude of 5,600 feet. So in moments from now, you can expect the key plotter of 2611 to land at the Indian shores. A couple of details. The aircraft was hired from a Vienna-based aircraft charter services. It took off from Miami in the US on Wednesday at 2:15 a.m. local time. It reached Bucharest in Romania at 7 p.m. local. It took a pause of almost 11 hours, and 6:15 a.m. local on Thursday, that was earlier today, it left for New Delhi. As we speak, the aircraft is hovering over the airport. It is now at 4,425 feet. So you can expect the aircraft to land in moments from now, maybe 10 minutes max. So that's the key accused, the key plotter, the Pakistan-born army deserter, Canadian citizen Tahawwur Rana, about to land in New Delhi.
So our news break confirmed there, as Ankit has shown us. Right now, the flight path expected to land any time now. We told you 6:22 is when he'll reach Delhi. So you see that aircraft right now hovering over the Palam airport. Once the approval is given, it will be touching down on Indian soil. And Tahawwur Rana, after 17 years, being brought back to face the Indian legal system to ensure justice in the 2611 case. He tried for long to run and hide with last-ditch pleas in the US Supreme Court and whatnot. None of that working right now. And India successfully ensuring the extradition of a wanted terrorist, the plotter, the mastermind of the 2611 terror attacks. And this is a crucial moment, really, in the fight for justice in what is the worst terror attack that India has seen. And I want to bring in also Mr. S.P. Vaid on this broadcast. Sir, thank you very much for your time. Can you just explain to us, sir, many people may question, 17 years on, what can Tahawwur Rana really add to an investigation that's gone on for 17 years?
Akshita, no doubt 17 years have taken a long time, but then it's a huge achievement for the government of India and for agencies of India. Getting a man like him on our soil and face the law for the crime he has committed. You remember the words of President Trump. He said he is an evil man and he should face gallows. He